So Project EU5 has just gotten a new dev diary, and this one is about rebels. And I have to say this is extremely important. I'm gonna give some maybe L takes for some of you guys. I'm gonna give some W takes for some other ones. I'm gonna give my take and what about how I feel rebels should be working in EU5. Of course, first we're gonna go through how they currently are being illustrated as exposed by Johan in the more recent dev diary. And then after I present that, I want to tell you what I feel should be changed and what I agree with, because there's some good things in this particular dev diary, but there's also some things that I don't really necessarily agree with, and also some things that we don't have that much information because it's only a limited amount of things that he talks about here. But I do think this is extremely important because, as you guys know, in EU4 as it stands, rebels can be a pretty massive issue, and in general in Paradox Grand Strategy games, rebels are not necessarily properly depicted in my particular opinion. So hopefully EU5 is going to do a better job at that. So right now we have 5 types of rebel factions. Okay, we've got the nationalists, which is for independence movements, the pretenders, which is the ones that will change your nation's ruler to another ruler, slave rebels, which are basically pops that want to become independent, religious rebels when they want to convert your country to another religion, and a state where a specific estate's not going to be happy. So they're fairly similar to the rebels in EU4. There's actually less types of rebels than there are in EU4, which is actually really good. So as it stands for the categories, I'm 100% on board. I like the way that this is illustrated, and I'm glad to see that there's less types of rebels overall. Now we have here illustrated the Sardinian Patriots, which is a type of nationalist independence movement, of course, where should these guys enforce their demands, then Sardinia either will become an independent nation if it does not exist on the map yet, or as Johan says later in the dev diary, if their country already exists and the rebels enforce, then whatever provinces those rebels have taken will become a part of the country that already exists. So identical to how it works in EU4, if rebels enforce, then your nation will lose those provinces, and whatever other nation has the cores on those provinces, or whichever the nation has the primary culture for those pops that are rebelling, will take those provinces. So it doesn't have to be cores only. That means, say you have a province in Africa, right, that all of a sudden it managed to get a majority Prussian. I don't know why. If these Prussians rebel in your African province, and they enforce, that province is going to become a part of Prussia because the majority of the pops are Prussians and they're the ones rebelling and they want the province to become a part of Prussia. That's cool. I actually like that. I actually like it because it simulates how historically some areas had a complete makeover from a cultural perspective, where migrating people or people that got expelled in that particular area or forced into that particular area rebelled, gained independence, and they became the majority obviously and formed their own country, despite before those lands being controlled by a different population, right? Johan mentions when a pop's level of satisfaction is low enough, they will join a rebel faction. Now this rebel faction will get progress. As you see here, we've got nationalist rebels plus 0.35. That is the progress bar there. So once that reaches 100%, I would assume that those pops will break away and start their rebellion. We have here a sneak peek at the Sardinian peasants in Cagliari illustrated above. So this is the satisfaction of the peasants in Cagliari. We've got different modifiers for that. The base is +5, then they are commoners. The view of Sardinians of the Catalan, which is the primary culture of the ruler class, whoever owns that particular province, because Aragon owns it obviously. Aragonese tolerance of Catholicism also makes them more satisfied, etc. If the pop's satisfaction is below 18%, they will join a rebel group. If it goes above 29.7%, then they will start being loyal again and stop being a part of that particular rebel group. Johan mentions that one way to make the estate happy is you can reduce taxes or grant them some more privileges. If you integrate the pops, it would reduce the conquered penalty from 50% to 10%, but that will take 25 years to integrate that pops. Okay, that's actually not bad. 25 years to integrate a certain pop group, that is really not bad in my opinion. Considering that it's 50 years, up to 50 years to core a province, that's a lot better in my opinion. Since even though it's not necessarily going to be a core province, eventually it will, right? A temporary solution is to just integrate that particular pop group. Question is, how many pop groups can you integrate? Is there a limit on that? That's my question. If we build a castle, we could add another 10% satisfaction. Makes sense. Castles historically have been a point of control in medieval Europe. Areas around the castle were significantly more loyal because they knew that, you know, the lord and the castle with his troops could come any moment and boom, 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 snap him on the neck and say, yo, stop being disloyal, you peasant scum, and go back to farming potatoes. But sir, we don't have potatoes. They're in the New World. Shut up! up? Little did that noble know that he was speaking to Parco Molo. Do you know Parco Molo? Well, you want to know him, you'll get a link to the Parco Molo in the description below. Very cool dude. Because they lack access to wines and legumes and currently trade in a Muslim market, you could try to deny access to Al Jazeera and then would simply be happier as the wine would be happier. Okay, so market manipulation could play into satisfaction for your population. That is really cool. That means that in order to learn EU5, you're not going to need 1,444 hours. You're going to need 10,000 hours to learn the tutorial. Holy shit, that's going to be a lot of information to take in. We have here the pop join rebels threshold. Stability affects that, as well as base value for country and communalism. Not sure what communalism is, but probably some advance or something, I would assume, which is a technology. You also will have a cabinet action called pacify population, which is available in the age of absolutism, and it's going to give 5 to 10% reduction in threshold for joining rebels, but this is something that you actively have to do with one of your cabinet members, so keep that in mind. It's only available later in the campaign when the progress reaches 100%. So in this case, that's about 23 years. That is amazing. I love that. So in EU4, one thing I hated was that the rebels popped out about a couple of months or a couple of years after you conquered the province. Having the rebels pop out 23 years later, it makes sense. Makes a lot of sense because it would take a lot of planning, right? So the uprising is likely to happen before the integration is done. So you have to, if you want to integrate the peeps, then you do need to plan ahead and make them happy so they don't rebel until you actually finish integrating them. Nationalism is a big contribution here. 18.12 due to lack of control. Interesting. So the monthly change for progress of Sardinian patriots is pretty high, 0.35. Holy snap. Apparently, when the revolution triggers, there's different types of revolutions, right? So depending on the type of revolution, the war itself will have different parameters, let's call them, where it will behave different. For example, rebels will form a new country when the revolution triggers, right? That's for all revolutions, and they take ownership of the locations where it has a strong support. So say you have 10 provinces, 5 provinces have strong rebel support. Those 5 provinces will start a new country. But here's the difference, right? All of them start a new country, but not all of them behave the same, because if it is a regular revolt, you will fully annex the side that revolted if you win the war, and as consequence, you get no aggressive expansion, and always you will have 100% war score. So no matter how big the size of the revolution is, once the revolt is over, you will fully annex that country. So even if it has 1,000 provinces or locations, you will be able to annex 1,000 locations once you win the war against the revolution. Now here's the addendum to that, right? If, say, you got Sardinian rebels that popped out, and there is a Sardinian nation available on the map, well, they will be able to call in that country to be a part of the revolution, and if the war is won, then that country will automatically annex those provinces that are a part of the revolution. So that's different from EU4, and that's actually good, meaning that if the rebels have 100% enforcement, it's not just automatically gonna go to the other country instantly. They break apart first, you have a war with that part that broke away, and the other nation has the option of joining on the side of that revolt, and if they win, they get the parts back. If they lose, you get the parts back. Now the question is, and here's one of my maybe L ticks, maybe W, depending on how you see it, right? Question is from me, will you be able to add war goals if, say, that particular nation joins on the side of the revolt? Because in my opinion, if a part of your country broke away and a nation that's supporting that part of the country breaking away joins them, you should technically be able, maybe not 100% war score, but you should maybe be able to take provinces or take some sort of monetary reparations or something from that nation that helped the revolt out, right? Maybe you can prevent from taking lands from them. That would be fair, but you should still be able at least to take money or to take some sort of power projection or something, prestige or something of the sort that we have in EU4 right now, right? Second type of revolt is the civil war. Civil war is basically identical to how it works in Imperator Rome. So you have, again, another country that breaks away from you, but the difference is that every single province that you occupy during that civil war from that country that broke away automatically becomes yours. So it's not like you have to wait for the peace treaty in order to annex those provinces. You automatically fully annex those provinces the second that you've occupied them. So this is the same horde mechanic that we had in EU4 before. It's the same mechanic that you have for civil wars in Imperator Rome. It's actually identical to it. So that means, as Johan says, the civil war is always fought to the bitter end and only one country can survive. You got to be really careful in civil war, because if they make massive progress, it really can can make you lose the war super fast, unfortunately. In Project Caesar, there is no game over if you lose the civil war. So in Imperator Rome, if you lost against the civil war, you lost. That's it. You have to restart the game. But in Project Caesar or EU5, or maybe even EU6 at this point, we can call it skip EU5, go to 6 directly. When you lose, you can play as that particular country. This makes sense. So usually a civil war starts because of some type of disagreement on internal issues, right? So let's say some part of your country wants to become a technocracy or a theocracy or whatever, right? And you want to stay the same. If you lose the civil war and the people that want to enforce that particular policy change win, you will continue to play the game as the same nation, but you will have to have that particular policy enforced because you lost the war. Or if you win the war, obviously continue as normal and you have the policy not change. Now, next week, they're going to be talking about diplomacy. Before I go into the comment section and show you what Johan has replied to, I also want to address something here. My take on civil wars, again, this is just my take on civil wars. Doesn't mean it should be like this. Doesn't mean I'm right, I'm wrong. It's just my own opinion. So keep that in mind, is that all the rebels that have to start a civil war must have some sort of financial back, because it doesn't make sense to me that freaking 100,000 peasants all of a sudden have the money to make weapons. Oh, we got 100,000 rebels, but we have a 20,000 army strong, and the rebels somehow manage all of them to get weapons and armors and shit so they can actually rebel. How the hell is that possible? There should be a system where they have some sort of idle financial backing, or some system in which they have to actually have the guns or the weapons. If they don't have that and they're just going out with pitchforks, represent that by making rebels really, really weak. I just dropped my pen. I don't know what's wrong. So I hope that's going to be the case for rebels too. If they cannot sustain their equipment, have the debuff for those units. If they don't have enough equipment to sustain all of those troops, either don't spawn them, or if you spawn them, make them super weak. That would be fair, because I'm tired of freaking fighting rebels in EU4 that are literally bigger than the armies of the nation I just conquered. If they had those kinds of weapons for the rebels, why didn't they use them during the war? Explain that to me, Paradox. Anyway, that's my take on rebels personally. Johan says, please stop the WoW spam from now on. It's not fun anymore. Confirms that we have the ability to fund rebels, and if they win, they can be either friendly or be a vassal or something of the sorts. The idea is that you can fund rebels. I think we already knew that from before, didn't we? So that's a really good question from Percival 350. How will the pretender work if there is no loyalty system? It's apparently based off of legitimacy. So when the ruler dies, a new ruler is elected, he has weak legitimacy, or when you have a foreign ruler, apparently also has weak legitimacy. Very interesting to see. So that would be able to trigger a pretender rebellion. Also, apparently it's confirmed no more separatists. It is going to be nationalist rebels from now on. So Johan also says having a particular culture integrated and having high control in those areas means it's less of a problem dealing with them, but overall it might still be an issue throughout the entire campaign unless you actually assimilate them, basically. Confirms that all revolts and civil war factions have unique dynamic tags. In Project Caesar is no more longer 3-letter tags like Sui, Eng, Baiz, BYZ. It's gonna be 3 to 5 letters. Whoa, that's because there's so many nations you need up to 5 letters. That is wild. So for example, AAA00. Modding wise, that's gonna be an issue. I mean, it's not gonna be an issue, but it's gonna be a little bit more complicated, I guess. You will also be able to switch country in the lobby, similar to how it is in Victoria 3, how it is in CK3. Seems like there are ways to become North Sweden or Nahuatl Japan, and there's also multiple game rules for changing primary culture or religion. Dynamic one would be 40% of pops were present and of the same group, only 2 religions, cultures present in your country, no limitations at all. So you would have, depending on what you set your game rules to, the ability to convert to any religion without any limitation, if you really want, or have it so that it's a percentage of the pops has to be a specific religion and so on. This means the game is going to be insanely replayable if that's the case. I like that. This is a really good change. I love that. Also, since we are speaking about cultures, I want to address something shortly here, because I've also seen people commenting this and I actually agree with you guys. Cultures in EU5 should be hybridizable like it is in CK3. You should be able to mix 2 different cultures and create a new culture, because that is something that has happened historically. The reason we are today whatever cultures we are is because people in the past mixed with each other. English is a result of the Normans, which were French-speaking Viking folk, well, mostly just French really, but French with Viking origins, let's say, that mixed in with the Anglo-Saxons and so on, right? right? That's why we speak modern English. Make that a thing in EU5, please. I don't want it to be a DLC. I want it to be from day one. But I know it's not going to be from day one because it's going to be a DLC. Yeah, it's fine. I get it. But game is not yet announced. Maybe you do have time. Unless the game is coming out really soon, huh? Maybe you're going to announce it in a month, huh? Just say, man. Maybe I cracked the code, man. Maybe I know you're announcing the game in a month or so. Maybe December for Christmas. Give us a nice little gift for Christmas, huh? I know you want to. I know it. Oh, okay. Apparently, there's also no way for a civil war to end up in basically a status quo. Status quo. So basically, if the war drags on for a long time, you still will not be able to white peace and just have two separate tags spring out of one tag. That's not a thing. Johan says that's going to be very awkward, so says big no to that. I kind of feel like that would not be such a bad idea personally, but I understand from a programming perspective, it could present some challenges, and it might make the game, because of how the AI works a lot of the times, it might make the game just end up being 1,000 different rebellions everywhere that went for the status quo, right? I kind of understand why he's not doing it. Holy shit, so rebels are going to be able to form alliances with other nations after or before they've revolted. After they spawn, they will be able to form alliances. Also, nationalist rebels can ally together to form a larger united force against their ruler. Holy mother of God. So expanding in EU5 is really not going to be a dude. Like everything that I'm seeing in past few diaries tells me that you really just have one playstyle in EU5, playing Toll. That's it. Like what? Really? It's going to be super punishing to expand in this game. Maybe I'm just being dramatic here. Maybe it's not going to be so punishing. I don't know. Just gives me the idea that it's going to be. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Love you all, and I'll see you in the next one.